Peter Griffin's life is full of unexpected twists, and it's easy to see why people call him a legend. His story starts in Padre de Familia, Season 6, Episode 6. The episode opens with the Griffins attending a Veterans Day parade, where Peter gets hit by what's jokingly called the patriotic gland after a musical performance by Herbert. It's weird, but that's Peter's life in a nutshell, strange yet funny. Later in the episode, Peter goes all out in showing his patriotism. He tries to get his family involved, though it's safe to say they don't exactly share his enthusiasm.
If you're not from here, God's gonna hunt you down and give you AIDS.
After all, Peter's idea of patriotism involves some questionable actions, like getting rid of anything related to Speedy Gonzales in the house. He even tries to get one of his employees fired just because they're foreign. He goes as far as signing up for Border Patrol, clearly showing a strong stance on immigration. Then things get interesting. Peter finds out he's not even American. He was born in Mexico, which throws a major wrench in his plans.
You weren't born in America. You were born in Mexico.
What?
Peter's world turns upside down as he gets fired from his job. To fix his situation, he has to pass a citizenship test, which is a huge challenge for someone like Peter.
Complete this sentence. The land of the free and the home of the blank.
Home of the Whopper?
After that, he struggles to find another job. His attempt at working as a nanny goes hilariously wrong, with Peter's large size not exactly fitting the job description. In desperation, Lois calls her dad, Mr. Pewterschmidt, for help. Peter ends up working for him at the mansion, but things aren't perfect. They end up sharing a tool shed with several other families, which is certainly not what Peter expected. Yet, Peter starts embracing his Mexican roots. He celebrates Cinco de Mayo with full enthusiasm, though Carter quickly shuts that down, sending everyone back to work.
Immigrants built this country, and I say it's time for us to take it back.
Could you say whole speech again in Spanish?
The story ends with Peter realizing that sometimes the system doesn't change just because you want it to. Then, in Peter's Two Dads, Season 5, Episode 10, Peter learns something else about his background. This time, the Griffins are preparing for Meg's birthday, but the whole event turns into a disaster. Peter shows up drunk, dressed as a clown, and it doesn't go well. This leads to Grandpa Griffin's tragic death after he's seriously injured.
You're a fat, stinking drunk.
Those words hit Peter hard, and he makes a pledge to stay off the booze for good. But soon he realizes that his father, Francis Griffin, wasn't really his dad after all. Peter's mom confesses that his real father is someone named Mickey McFinnigan, whom she met while in Ireland, so Peter decides to track him down. Peter and Brian head to Ireland, where they expect to find Peter's biological father. What they find, however, is a drunken mess. But in Ireland, that's not a bad thing. The man is an Irish stereotype to the extreme, but Peter has no doubt this is the father he's been searching for. Peter, in his typical style, challenges Mickey to a drinking contest to prove they're father and son.
As we say in Ireland, let's drink until the alcohol in our system destroys our livers and kills us. I got 20 on the fat one.
Which one's the fat one?
The contest ends as expected, with Peter passing out first, but Mickey's liver gives out before Peter's, so Peter technically wins. Mickey finally accepts Peter as his son.
What happened?
Peter, you won!
My God! Nobody's ever beat me at the game of drink. Now do you believe that you're my dad? Nobody but a McFinnigan could handle that much of the creature. You're the broth of me own stubby shillelagh, all right? Welcome to me family, Peter. You hear that, Brian? I'm a McFinnigan now. I can forget all about Francis.
You know, there's something you should always remember, Peter. Francis may not have been your father, but he raised you as if you were his own. And if that isn't love, I don't know what is.
Oh, I guess you're right.
and the whole bar celebrates with a classic Irish jig. It's a wild scene, but at least Peter's found his father despite the chaos. 235. Now, fast forward a few years, Peter and Lois's relationship hits a rough patch in Death Lives, Season 3, Episode 6. It's their anniversary, but instead of spending the day with Lois, Peter decides to go play golf with Quagmire. Lois is left with a last-minute scavenger hunt Peter put together to keep her busy. Death won't let Peter leave limbo until he has a revelation about his life, so Peter has to relive more memories to figure out why his relationship with Lois has fallen apart. The next memory brings Peter back to when he first met Lois's dad, Carter.
It's a pleasure, Peter. My daughter is quite taken with you.
And I'm taken with her. I mean, look at us, huh? Yeah, show us front and back there, Lois.
Unsurprisingly, Carter doesn't take kindly to this and throws Peter into the ocean. But it's not all bad. Peter gets picked up by a Navy aircraft carrier and meets a future friend, Quagmire, who introduces himself with the signature line, "Welcome aboard." Peter, oblivious as usual, doesn't realize this is a turning point in his life. Peter continues to revisit more memories. In one final memory, Peter returns to the mansion of Lois's father, Carter. There, Carter offers Peter $1 million to stay away from Lois. Peter asks Death to send him back to the present day so he can make it right with Lois. He's determined to show her he cares. He's not perfect, but he's finally realized what really matters.
I want you to take this and stay away from my daughter forever.
$1 million.
$1 million.
That moment turns things around for them, and love is in the air once again. 331. Peter's wedding to Lois, as seen in Peter and Lois's Wedding, Season 18, Episode 6, had some pretty unusual moments. It all starts with the Griffins having no Wi-Fi at home. Rather than retell the Star Wars trilogy, Peter comes up with the idea to tell the story of how he and Lois got married. Apparently, after college, Peter lived with Quagmire and Cleveland, while Lois moved in with two Bonnies. During this time, Quagmire gets promoted at Blockbuster, and there's a fountain dance to celebrate it.
We're broken up. We're just friends now.
Lois explains that at this point, she and Peter agreed to take a break from dating, but remain friends. In the meantime, her dad sets up potential backup bachelors for Lois, with Tom Tucker being her favorite. But the guys start to notice something about Peter, so Peter decides to save up enough money for an engagement ring and proposes to Lois, but there's a catch. She's already engaged to Tom Tucker. Tom Tucker might have impressive flexibility, but Lois isn't convinced to marry him. Eventually, Peter wins her heart again with a mixtape, and Lois calls off her engagement to Tom. She even tells her father, Carter, that she wants to marry Peter instead. Carter, surprisingly, is okay with it, and even arranges a bachelor party for Peter at an MTV beach house. Of course, things don't go perfectly at the bachelor party. Carter hires Daisy Fuentes, the 90s bombshell, to try and seduce Peter, and it works. But Peter isn't giving up that easily. He hears about Lois's wedding plans and heads off to crash it. With some 90s action movie flair, Peter bursts into the church and declares his love for Lois. They share an emotional moment before Peter punches someone in the church for dramatic effect. Later, Peter decides to have their wedding at a baseball stadium, but it turns out to be a disaster. 315. Now, do you remember Peter's first job? It was as a toy factory inspector, which seems like a random start for him. In Mr. Saturday Night, Season 3, Episode 9, Peter gets frustrated with his job and tells Lois he's not satisfied. Lois suggests he invite his boss, Mr. Weed, over for dinner to try and get a raise. During the dinner, Peter does the unthinkable. He insults Mr. Weed.
I don't care what the guys at work say. I never thought you were an effeminate weirdo.
Surprisingly, despite that awkwardness, the dinner goes well, and Mr. Weed is so impressed that he offers Peter a raise. This moment is full of highs and lows, but things take a dark turn when Mr. Weed dies suddenly, and Peter insists that his raise was sealed by a verbal contract.
Anyway, right before he died, Mr. Weed promoted me to head of toy development, and I brought along my attorney who confirms that this constitutes a verbal contract.
After Peter loses his job, things don't exactly go as planned. In Jungle Love, Season 4, Episode 13, Peter tries a bunch of odd jobs that end up being total failures. He even tries being an air dryer, a deaf guy, and some pretty weird things in between. But the job that stands out most is when Peter tries something truly bizarre.
Peter, get in the car.
Okay, but it'll cost you. What do you want, a Cleveland steamer?
I said get in the car. What's a Cleveland steamer?
After this disaster, Lois steps in and offers to help. She says she saved enough money teaching piano lessons to support them for a while, giving Peter the chance to chase his dream job. What's that dream job, you ask? Becoming a Renaissance fair knight. Peter explains how a knight once saved him from a potentially fatal fall, so it makes sense that he'd want to live out this fantasy. Peter starts his training only to be introduced to the Black Knight, who's not exactly the most welcoming guy. The Black Knight even has a trophy that Peter's told people still talk about. Even if it's a bit outdated, while practicing, the Black Knight's maiden starts flirting with Peter, but of course, Peter is clueless.
Wouldst thou take a gander underneath my frock?
Sure, whatever floats your boat. There you go. Jeez, freaking perverts.
Madeline! Go wait in the Hyundai. What were you doing with my girl?
The Black Knight gets mad and banishes Peter from the fair, crushing his dreams. The next day, Peter watches a joust for closure, and after being called a fizzle by the Black Knight, Peter finds the courage to stand up to him. He hops on his steed, ready to joust. Even though it's a suicide mission, a car pulling into the fair ruins his shot at glory, but Peter still gets the satisfaction of crashing into his enemy. Eventually, Peter realizes jousting isn't his true calling, so he moves on, but this leaves him jobless again. Peter finally finds his next gig at Free Pocket Ale Brewery, which seems to be his dream job until he shows up and quickly starts drinking on the job. Not long after, he's caught without pants, drinking on the job and generally embarrassing himself. Lois is none too pleased. Peter tries to make things right, but he's quickly demoted to the shipping department where there's no free beer. So Peter's dream job seems to come with a few unexpected bumps. There's one thing Peter just can't get enough of, his favorite song, Surfin' Bird by the Trashmen. In I Dream of Jesus, Season 7, Episode 2, Peter hears the song at a diner and it's like a switch flips. He goes from casually enjoying it to playing it on loop at home, driving everyone crazy. Stewie and Brian can't take it anymore and secretly steal the record and destroy it while Peter sleeps. But Peter doesn't give up easily. He goes on a mission to find another copy, only to end up at a record store where he meets a guy who looks suspiciously like Jesus. As you'd expect, Peter has his usual antics and treats the situation like another hilarious disaster.
My God! Jesus Christ! The Messiah! You've returned!
Then Peter invites him to dinner. Of course, the whole family loves Jesus, but Brian, being the skeptic he is, isn't as impressed. Peter, however, suggests that Jesus should come out of hiding and solve all of the world's problems, and surprisingly, Jesus agrees. The next thing you know, he's walking on water and becoming a huge celebrity, getting spots on talk shows and magazine covers. Fast forward to the future in Stu and Stewie's Excellent Adventure, Season 4, Episode 30. Stewie meets an older version of himself on vacation in the past. Curious about what the future holds, baby Stewie hitchhikes his way into the future, only to find that things aren't going as planned. He's surprised to learn that he hasn't taken over the world yet, and hasn't even taken out Lois. Even worse, Meg comes home after getting a sex change, and Chris is married to a woman named Vanessa. While dining, Vanessa asks Stewie, the older version, if they should put Peter and Lois in a retirement home. Stewie tries to dodge the question, but let's be real. What do you say to that? Meanwhile, in this future world, Peter and Lois are living in a retirement home where they get to hang out with their friends, including Joe. It seems that no matter where Peter goes, whether it's battling giant chickens or living through bizarre moments with Jesus, his world keeps turning in the weirdest directions possible. But in the end, we're all left wondering what's next for Peter, because with him, there's always something new and unexpected around the corner. So, What do you think is the craziest moment in Peter's life? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.